Bim Bimmer, have your Friday night dinner and welcome to the Manchester United agenda. And I am delighted to be joined by someone who I know has brushed their teeth today. It's Stefan.
Oh yeah. It's
How
good
are
to
you,
be here.
Stefan?
I'm good, man. Like I've just finished on my own channel, and now I am here on the agenda. Can't wait.
Yeah, we were meant to be joined by Rich Sports tonight, but unfortunately, something's come up for Rich, so we wish him the best with that. And as always, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Mr. B. I can't wait to welcome him back to the channel, but take as much time as you need. And a special mention to Monday, who's not with us tonight, but he's worked so hard recently that we think he deserves a bit of time off. So I'm sure he will be drinking and dancing and laughing and doing all sorts of things all over the place. So big up, boys, and can't wait to see you again. All right, Stefan, anything been going on in the world of Manchester United today?
I don't think so. I think it's been a very calm and perfectly normal day with nothing of note happening in the media or on social media. I'm sure that there's not too much going on.
Yeah, well, with
Apart
that
from a
in
couple of
mind,
tweets.
yeah, I mean, it's just one. It was just one tweet in it, and the world's on fire. But we've got Hydro who's popped in to say hello to us this evening. Good evening to you, Hydro. I hope you're doing well. And like, look, people will sort of filter in as the show goes on. So, what we're going to do first of all, before we get into Ten Hag and Rashford and all these things, is that I promised Stefan some interesting tactical stuff. And we're gonna look at that first, but I do understand that all of you want to talk about Rashford, and we are going to talk about Rashford. So just bear with us. And look, it's Bart's popped in.
That's good to see Bart again.
All right, Bart. This actually you might find this interesting. So this was in an Athletic article a couple of days ago that I wanted to bring up, and it is about final third entries. So, Stefan, could you sort of like tell us what this graph means and what a final third entry is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of what it says in the tin there. Like this graph is literally the combinations get the ball into the opposition penalty box, and anyone who's watched United this season knows that it's maybe not been our strongest suit at times. And anyone who's watched Arsenal will know that Bukayo Saka finds himself in the penalty box, getting touches in good areas pretty much every single match. And it's interesting really because Garnacho and Bruno are top for the final third entries at United. I think that's kind of an interesting one as well because obviously Bruno's been playing a little bit deeper this season as well.
Yeah, but brilliant. I mean, so essentially, what we're looking at here is the attacking combinations that sort of bring you chances, and you can see that Odegaard and Saka are head and shoulders above everyone else in the league. And for me, I think Saka's been the best player in the league this season. But what's quite interesting is that, so Bart, you're a Liverpool fan. Salah to Nunez, that's a winger to a striker. That's very uncommon in the Premier League now. But the majority of these is a winger to a fullback. So Willian Robinson, Rodri Walker, like that's fullbacks are the ones that are normally sort of getting in. But with us, it is it's Fernandez and Garnacho. And here you can see like the sort of the graphs showing how they work. So this is a playmaker looking for a winger. You can see Odegaard to Saka. I mean, Saka he's attacking from that half space constantly. Palmer, Sterling, a bit more haphazard. Gibbs to Alanga, all over the place. And then Fernandez to Garnacho. So first off, Stefan, when you're looking at this, we both know that Garnacho has played left and right this season.
Yeah.
Do you think that sort of looks what you roughly see in football matches, like Garnacho receiving inside the box, like outside, like on the outside of the penalty area?
Obviously, we have the situation in United where Garnacho has played left and he's played right, pretty 50-50. which would explain when you look at those final third entries, probably half's going left, half's going right. I think it's kind of interesting though when you look at the length of some of those passes as well. Some of them are coming in from fairly deep areas as well, and obviously, you look at that top left graph there. You look at the half space entries of where Saka's getting into the box. That's consistent. That's repeated, and even just going back to your previous graph as well, there, man. Odegaard to Saka is number one, and then Saka to Odegaard is number two. Like so they're literally head and shoulders above everybody else. But it's one of those ones you wouldn't mind Bruno being a little bit closer, or at least those passes coming from the wide areas as well. I feel like that's something that's sticking out there.
Do you not think that like Odegaard looks to be sort of playing in roughly the same kind of area? It's just the frequency is a bit more.
I mean, possibly, yeah. Obviously, the Palmer Sterling one is pretty haphazard, like, but
and if you look, you just look at the left-hand side only of Fernandes to Garnacho, that doesn't look too far removed from Odegaard to Saka. It's just the frequency, as it were.
Yeah. It's the passes on the right-hand side are a lot. They're a lot different, which is an interesting one.
Yeah,
longer passes, different angles as well.
Definitely. All right. Whilst you continue to study that graph, I'm going to say hello to a few people. Because Stefan hasn't seen this before. I asked him if he wanted to see it, and he was like, I wanted to do it live. We have Matthew Bassett in the house. Good evening, Matthew. I hope you're well. We have Simon Warner. I hope your day has been good. I always like that you ask how our day is, Simon. I hope you've had a good one as well. We've got Dark Crow giving us a wave. We've got James popping in to say hi. And we've got Matthew updating us with the scores. Boys, we are going to talk about Rashford. We just want to, it's coming. So if that's what
it's coming,
you want to talk about, we're going to talk about it. It's just that me and Stefan are very nerdy people, to be honest. We've got some graphs out to look at.
Can't beat the graphs.
Yeah. So, what are your kind of final thoughts on seeing this? Suggests to me that you think that the ball to the left wing is a better option than the ball to the right wing for Fernandes and for Garnacho in this case.
Yeah, I think it has to be, man, because if you look at it, Bruno is predominantly playing on the left-hand side of our midfield, so that pass is always going to be more complex into the areas where he's playing it. Now, you could make the argument that he's bypassing more players with the pass. It's possibly more risky, but it's also bypassing more zones of the pitch. But I don't know, just from the graph, I would need to go back and watch these on, to get a full idea of what we were doing in these clips. But I guess it just looks like a more difficult pass having to play it into that kind of area. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's an out ball. When it's on the right hand side, it's an out ball. Odegaard to Saka are both left footers, right? Fernandes to Garnacho, both right footers. So on the left hand side, it actually doesn't look too dissimilar to what Arsenal are doing, except that Bruno is floating a bit more than Odegaard, just based off the where the line's being drawn from. When the ball is passed out to the right-hand side to Garnacho, I would suspect that what we've done is we've moved the block across, and this is the out ball to stretch them. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because we're going to have to talk a lot about left wingers, is Garnacho doing enough? He is the person that gets us into the box more than anyone else. And I've had a little look at his stats, and not only are they incredibly similar to Rashford, I don't find them impressive at all, Stefan. So the ones that I want to sort of direct you to would be shot creating actions, which is average, pass completion, which is below average, but most important of all, passes attempted, which is well below average for a winger.
Yeah, I mean, it does say it all. I think if you want to have a look at some of the other stats, that would also indicate kind of what we're getting from Garnacho. Very high in terms of his progressive carries. He's the guy getting us up the pitch, be those in more transitional moments at times. But in terms of what he's doing, in terms of like an actual output, probably still not good enough. Like, when you put it out there, where passes attempted are low, progressive passes pretty low, as pass completions below average, shot creating and actions, like you said. You want to see those numbers higher for the amount of ball he does seem to be getting in those matches. Looking at the stats, you would want to see more. Again, does it come down to the argument that Garnacho's 19 and Rashford's 25, 26 as
Yes,
well? I'm sure that's a
I
big
think so.
factor. Yeah, that's a big factor as well with it. Like, so Garnacho maybe has that time to be more productive in terms of his final third output. But yeah.
Well, I mean, what stands out to me here, Stefan, is that in the Premier League, he's got 11 goal contributions, 31 games. So it's about 1 in 3 Garnacho is scoring or creating a goal. But his touches in the penalty box are almost the highest in the league for anyone, like 98th percentile. There's only one other player that will take more touches in the box, and it's probably Saka. I haven't checked. And also, he takes a hell of a lot of shots compared to everyone else in the box. He's taking like three to four shots every game in the box. And I think that these stats show why Rashford got about 30 goals last season, because it's all being set up for the guy on the left wing to come in and score goals.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what the stats are saying. Because so the stats basically allow you to sort of take your bias out of something and see what the numbers are. But do you think the system is set up for Garnacho to score this season the way it was for Rashford last season?
That's a good question, because an argument I made a lot last season was that our team was very left-hand heavy. Whenever you look at our key progressors in the deep areas, you look at Martinez last season, you look at Luke Shaw last season, you had Rashford, obviously, Bruno Fernandes, even Martial when he played striker. Everyone was very, very heavy in terms of our build-up on the left-hand side. Probably you could have maybe hoped that Anthony could have been more of an outball, a switch, last season than what he actually was. But I think this season, whenever you compare it, we've actually had a worse left-hand side as well than we've had. We haven't had Shaw all season. It's mostly been Reguilon or Dallo or Wan-Bissaka playing left. Amrabat, you name it. Lindelof is played there. Centre halves, we've been playing Johnny Evans instead of Lisandro Martinez. The midfield's been interesting. Let's just put it out there way. So yeah, I mean, like, in terms of the players to work the ball through the phases of build-up, it's not the same level as what it was last year. So it's actually maybe surprising when you look at the amount of touches and the amount of chances Garnacho gets on that left-hand side with all that factored in. Be interesting to see, if we had the first choice, so to speak, in terms of those left-hand side players, what kind of an output you would see. Would it be even higher, or would it just be something similar?
This is one of my theories, Stefan, is that I know a lot of people are sort of, 1 week Wan-Bissaka starts left back, 1 week it's Dalot, like he seems to switch the fullbacks around.
Yeah.
One constant he's had is Garnacho and Dalot on the same side. Like, I wonder what the relationship would be like with Luke Shaw, who I think, whilst is a very good player, like on his day, Luke Shaw there's no argument that he's one of the best left backs in the league and in the world. But that's on his day, isn't it? But yeah. I don't think that he's as versatile as Dalot is for coming inside, going outside, even the work rate and things like that. I think that Dalot is more of a sort of Swiss Army knife. You can solve more problems with Dalot. Do you think that that someone constantly on the overlap would help Garnacho, like almost exclusively on the overlap?
I mean, it does give you different options. I know that when Rashford's been at his best, it's always been with Luke Shaw on the overlap.
Yeah.
Because Rashford has that ball to Shaw. He can play 1-2, or he can play at the
And to be
shogun
fair,
side. Or
Martial,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Rashford's best form was with that kind of centre forward, with a
Martial does
Martial.
get it out of him. Yeah, no doubt about it. Like,
oh, and the other thing that I wanted to tell you is the reason I think we compact the left-hand side is that's to do with the counter press. Like like all defensive structures work much better when they're narrow. So you'll see
yeah,
that
yeah,
all teams will favour one side to basically protect them against transitions. And as you were saying, you want a hell of a lot more from Anthony as the outball.
yeah. He's always open. He is your switch in many senses. Like, and he might hold the width, but his productivity is just non-existent. Like,
I do prefer him to Ahmad. I've got to be honest. I think Anthony offers a lot more. Like I know everyone loves Ahmad,
I don't think
but
either option are particularly outstanding either. Like, you could definitely make a case for bringing in a different option on the right hand side.
who would you like? Is there anyone that like sort of stands out to you that you think would be a good option there?
I mean, there's a couple I know. I know people talk like a lot of people seem to think Pedro Neto's a really good example of someone who could come in, but the injuries concern me.
He
I've
also
always
only
liked
ever plays
Elisa.
wide
Yeah, I like Elisa personally,
at
but
Palace.
yeah, you still have issues there with him as well.
What are his issues?
On paper, he looks pretty injury prone.
Right.
I would say on paper, because he's so important for Palace that anytime he's 75% fit, he has to play. You know, there's no doubt about it. Like, he'll be rushed back by Roy Hodgson and get injured in the next match. So he would probably suit, you know, what we've done a lot with our own players as well. You know, it'd be like fitting right in at home and playing injured. Yeah, okay. Out for a month. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. I'm going to say hello to Andrew. Andrew, the start of the show is tactics. We're getting on to Rashford in a second.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And I want everyone here, you are all adults and you are all guests in our home. Please be civil with each other. All right. Because everyone's going to have different opinions about Rashford and they're going to bring all sorts of stuff in. But just like pretend you're having a conversation with your friends. Don't just go absolutely mental, take your pants off, wave your genitalia around. Like, none of that. Unless you send it to me on a video. It'd be very interesting. All right.
Oh, dear.
So, Stefan, I'm just going to wrap up on this about our final third entries.
Let's wrap up.
The one thing that I would just like to point out is Rodri Walker is going to be extremely interesting in the cup final.
Yeah. Definitely, man.
And that's left back. That's our left back's got to be covering that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna set the scene with Marcus Rashford. So this is what's happened today. Is a guy called United Paradigm tweeted, the way Marcus Rashford is being treated is absolutely disgusting. It's cruel. It's abusive. And Rashford at 12:30 last night said, I appreciate your support. It is abuse and has been for months. Enough is enough. And that's what's happened today. And the world seems to have overreacted and all sorts of things have been going on. Okay. I want, Stefan, I want you to break it down for me. Tell me what you're thinking.
I feel very tired about this conversation, to be honest with you, mate.
Sorry.
Because nothing with you. This has just been an ongoing thing, man. You know, we've had different scapegoats for a long time at this club, and you know, it doesn't seem to matter. Like, even when Rashford didn't play the other day, I was in interviews, I was seeing fan channels out there, and I was in the press going out there, still having a go at Rashford for us playing against Sheffield. He wasn't even in the squad. Like, you know, it does kind of feel like sometimes he can't win. It's not the first time in recent years. You know, we've had Harry Maguire. Everything Maguire did over the last couple of years have been vilified. Couldn't do anything right, even whenever he was like not taking a summer holiday, doing extra training sessions with, I think it was Carvalho or something he was training with. People are saying this is just PR, and you're like, the man's sacking his summer off to do training, like extra sessions, and we're calling the PR, like, and questioning him over it. So it's one of those ones, man. Like, on one hand, a month or two ago, we had the Belfast incident, and he came out with a video. And on his video, he said something to the effects of, I appreciate your love, but your hate makes me stronger. I love it when people doubt me. I love to prove them wrong. And now, a month later, it's complaining about the abuse all over again. Sometimes I just feel like he's better just not saying anything or not getting provoked into saying something and just leaving it at that. That seems to have worked for other people. I don't know if it comes down to like a personality thing, if it comes down to people around him type thing. I really don't know. I just don't think that anytime he's commented on the abuse or criticism that he's getting, that it's ever really worked out well. So, I mean, I think he's just got to have a hands-off policy from here on in.
All right. Well, I want to see what the boys are saying first of all before I weigh in on this, because I'm quite conflicted. Bart is asking how Rashford will be remembered by United fans. This is almost a copy paste of a question he put in the other day. We'll have to see. Bart, the thing is he did score in a final, and that is something that is always very important to me, because I never know when my father, for example, when he passes away, like I'll remember all the times that we spent watching Manchester United, and that is something I'm going to get to, because Rashford also did something in a final that annoyed me a hell of a lot. Simon, I have the quotes, what Ten Hag said about Rashford, which we'll show you next, but thank you very much for telling me. James, social media for you, and that's a very good point that we're going to explore. Andrew, you watched Webby and O'Neill earlier, and one of them had the best takes I've ever heard on this. Oh, like to see that. Bilal, do you talking on the pitch? Okay. He was talking about a game between Sociedad and Madrid earlier season where Real Madrid went off 1-0 down early in the second half. They were booing them. Yeah, okay. This is a very Spanish thing, like to have the white hankies out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Madrid thumped them second half. Won their next 8 home games. Mentality, boys. All right, we'll deal with that. So Bart agrees with you, Stefan. Here,
appreciate it.
The constant chat in and around the squad that invariably leaks to the press is getting very tiring and very monotonous. I'm sorry, Bart, that Manchester United are tiring you out and you find it monotonous. I'd have thought that this is I'd have thought that this is summer for you. It's just easy pickings everywhere. But I think you're banned from so many channels that you can't get in. I think Rashford will be remembered for his off-pitch duties, not counting nightclubs, but what he's done for the people. Okay, we can deal with that later. Yeah, James. See, Rashford insults us every time he plays. Sorry, Caps. Like, look, I'm not doing you down, and unlike a lot of people, if you want to call Rashford Trashford, you can call him Trashford. I don't care. But it is difficult to have like a productive conversation with someone who puts this out as their sort of opening argument, saying he insults us every time he plays. Like, if you could give me like some sort of more in-depth or slightly more well thought out points, then we can respond to them. And I think, oh good, hang on. You've been blocked by Webby and O'Neill as well. Bart, honestly. All right. So the first thing that I want to say about Rashford for myself is that anyone who's sort of watched this channel and knows me will have known that I have been one of Rashford's biggest haters for a very, very long time. I don't rate him as a player. His work rate annoys me, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that his performance in the final against Villarreal is genuinely, I think, the worst I've ever seen from a United player in a final ever. And it really upset me. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, Pogba was fine. Greenwood was fine. Like, Rashford, he didn't do it. And then the next day, he had a conference call with Barack Obama to promote a book. And it's something that has never, ever sat well with me, because it's not about being focused on football. On the other hand, like, there is something that's got to be about this. which is that Rashford was by himself at midnight, scrolling social media, just seeing abuse. And I find it very difficult as a human being not to relate to that on some level. But I don't, I kind of agree with everyone else in the fact that you do your talking on the pitch. Because I remember, like, Sarah always says that I'm very cold and uncaring, because when I was 19, I moved to Latin America to play in a youth development league. And I went by myself. I didn't have a very good grasp of the language. I lived in digs with people that I didn't know and stuff like that. And it was really difficult for about 3 weeks. And it actually, it wasn't that difficult. I made it difficult because I was being a bit silly about stuff. And then I got on with it. And since then, I've always thought that there's, when things are going bad or you're in a situation you don't like, it's up to you to sort it out. Your parents are not going to do it for you. Your friends are not going to do it for you. It's just you that you can rely on. And I find it so difficult that Rashford is, in my opinion, so weak. Like, I look at Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire, right, a lot of the abuse he got was just on the computer. You can turn that off. Like, it's not like the film The Ring where someone's going to come out of the TV and start saying you don't scan enough or something. But Maguire got it at Arsenal and he got it at Scotland games at the start of this season. And all he's done is keep that big head down, not do anything stupid, and play himself back into form and sort of rely on what made him like a player that United want to sign. And I look at the abuse that McTominay has had, that David Beckham has had, that like all these players have had. And I just can't help but think that there's got to be something wrong with Rashford emotionally at the moment. Like, he's too weak and he's too sensitive. He gives up too much. And last season, you don't score 30 goals without a little bit of hunger. And I saw it in him. And I'm actually quite worried about the state of Marcus Rashford. But I don't know, Stefan. Am I being too soft?
No, not at all. Like, I would agree with pretty much everything you've said there, mate, as well. It's last season he got what, 30 goals, 12, 13 assists, something pretty ridiculous like that. Like, that's world class numbers in anybody's books, easily. And when you look at the career of Rashford, he had 2-3 seasons under Ollie where he maybe got 20, 22, 23 goals. And then he had a really bad drop-off season when Ollie got sacked and Ranić came in. I think he got like 5 goals. Last season, 30 goals. This season, 8 goals. It's like, does he need some kind of a fire lit underneath him to try get the best out of him? Because an interesting comment I seen in my show was someone said, getting left out of the England squad might be a really good thing in terms of his hunger for the game. I don't know. It's one of those. It's like, I do remember that that Europa League final performance. Like, it was absolutely shocking, and I think I probably must have just lost all belief in United for a couple of minutes. I think we had a great opportunity to score, and I think he must have been maybe 3 yards out, and he put it wide, didn't even hit the target, and I was just like, I must have been in the pub. I'm pretty sure I dropped him a drink and everything just watching it. But it was one of those. It's like, on one hand, you got an academy graduate who scored 125 goals for the club.
Yeah,
you cannot ask for a lot more from someone who you haven't really had to pay for in terms of a transfer fee, has come through. The story is there. And it's the kind of player that you want to support. It's the kind of player you want to do well, because everybody would have had that dream as well of coming through at the club as a kid, working their way into the first team, getting their break, taking the opportunity. His story was so incredible that they made a FIFA mode about it. And they literally called it The Story. And they did a really bad face. They did a really bad face remodel and called him Alex Hunter or something. Yeah, I'm sure I might have just jigged something in your memory there.
Yeah, but, I remember it now.
The romanticism was there, and then it's just one of those there when it's like, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now if he just turned his phone off and went to sleep. We wouldn't. And if he could just, he obviously can't zone out if it's obviously personally affected him, this abuse, and that's why he's had all these statements and there's been issues this season. And he made that promotional video about doubting him and stuff, and it's just, I feel like people would have a lot more respect for him, and you wouldn't see this level of abuse and stuff if he just put his head down and got to work. Because then you would say, yeah, look, he's having a bad season, but he's still fighting away, he's still plugging away, he's still working away. He might turn it around. But now, we're asking entirely different questions that we wouldn't have if he just put the phone down last night. It's just baffling sometimes, man. It really is.
All right. Well, let's have a look at some comments. Right. We've got Andrew talking about the Villarreal performance, the worst I've ever seen. And Andrew, despite being a Swansea fan, I think he's been watching United since '94. Norwich away, was it, Andrew? How Ollie didn't take him off, I will never ever forgive him. I mean, you all know I really liked Ollie. I love him, and I rated him as a manager. But I have to agree with you. I couldn't understand why Rashford stayed on the pitch. Bart is saying name calling, talking about their wages, sending offensive messages to them about their family or their partners is something that crosses the line for him. And I mean, that should be for bloody everyone in a normal society. Yeah. Like, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you can't condone that there. Like, I don't think anybody would.
Would you play Rashford in the cup final? I would. Like, I would. I think that, like, even though I always say I don't rate Rashford, he has everything to be a world-class player, except for a brain and a bit of balance. And by now, Rashford should have looked at Bale and he should have looked at Ronaldo, and how instead of expanding their games, they minimized their games and made it just about scoring goals, like from particular angles and positions, a bit like Robin or something like that. And Rashford, that's what Rashford should have done.
You think he should have niched down?
Yeah, that's what the best players do. Like, you look at someone like De Bruyne. All De Bruyne really does now is cross and shoot. Like, and he provides those great moments. And Ronaldo, like, with us, was a much more fun player than he was at Real Madrid. But at Real Madrid, he scored all them goals. Bale was a much more fun player at Spurs. But the thing is that when you can score goals and you can do it consistently, everything should be about getting yourself in that position and just doing that, like at the top level. And that's where I thought Rashford would go eventually. I thought he'd be like a right-sided Gareth Bale. Like, and I still think he could be. Like, there's nothing that's stopping him except himself. And Andrew is saying his mentality is weak. Bart is saying this incident again shows how far Ten Hag's influence has plummeted this season. Last season, he tortured the players by making them listen to the celebration of Liverpool players in the 7-0 win. He also, Bart, I think, made them stay and watch the Man City players collect the FA Cup as well. But the thing is that Ten Hag, I don't think he knows how to manage these players. And I'm not saying that other people do know how to manage them, because they're a very strange bunch. All right, Andrew, I agree. This is the opening act of a tragedy. I worry for him. I really do as well, Andrew. Like, when Stefan was saying earlier, like, just turn your phone off and go to sleep. The thing that I thought was, is this a kind of call for help? Like, Rashford's not, and he can't be this stupid. He understands his influence. He's been the most effective leader of the opposition in the last 25 years. Like, I think that, I don't know. I wonder if Rashford is just feels so alone and isolated and stuff like this, that he just went out and did something to try and alert people. Or I'm not sure. And Bart is saying, has he not recovered from his breakup? Is he nursing a personal tragedy? I can relate to Rashford because I'm of the same age too. But the difference is, Bart, is that you've lived abroad, you're working towards a PhD, and I think that you've probably shown more mettle in your 20s than Rashford has. And I think that that's true about a lot of people. I think that when Stefan was talking about Hunter on FIFA, whatever it was, and the career mode and stuff, I think I said the other day, it might have been to you, Stefan, about Rashford appears to interpret life either through videos from X Factor or apprentice candidates. Like when he sits there and goes, "Don't doubt me, I'll only be stronger. I'm going to put it in everyone's face who's ever doubted me." That's straight off like episode 1 of The
Yeah,
Apprentice.
it's like living through like shitty Instagram motivational quotes, and
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
it
a very specific form of autism, isn't it? You can only express yourself through
just
X Factor.
catchphrases and like stuff. I don't know, man. Like it's pretty. It sounds pretty cliche, and I think like the more you see it, the less authentic it feels as well. I don't know if you get that. Like,
No, I mean, for me, the Players Tribune or tribute thing he did about the buses. I mean, I actually was just laughing at him when I watched it, and because I was thinking about myself, like people like Andy Tate, like people go out and work for a living, and like when I was playing football, I had to catch public transport to go to training and things. And it never at any point did I think, my God, I am a hero. This is like Paul Atreides riding a worm in Dune. And Rashford was surrounded by his family, and it felt to me that they were just reinforcing maladaptive practices of saying, like, you've struggled so much that you deserve this, instead of you went out on the pitch and you worked hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like it's like he sort of feels that there's this destiny where everything should come easy to him now. And
yeah, it's one of those. It's like it. He feels like he deserves it more than what he actually needs to go out there and earn it as well. Because by all accounts, he has made it. He has made the dream. He has joined United as like a 6 or 7 year old. He's been there for 20 years. He has won trophies with the team. He has scored for the team over 120 goals. He's probably paid 300 odd times for the team as well. By all stretches of the imagination, yeah, like he might feel like he's made it, but there's still so much that he can do and hopefully should be doing. That I don't know, like is it coming down to a hunger thing? Is it coming down to like a mentality thing? That's the most likely explanation to me. That it has to be some kind of mentality thing with Rashford, whether it's a hunger thing, whether it's a worrying thing, or if he's just easily affected by this kind of criticism and stuff. I don't know, but I think it does. I think the root cause and answer and solution to his problems lies within himself, not anyone else. It's not. It's
I
like
think
you said.
the club and players around him need to help. Like,
Yeah.
like I like when I was playing out in Santiago and stuff. Like, so what we used to do is we used to get in a lot of young guys every year, because you couldn't be older than 24 at the start of the season in the league, and there were a lot of people that struggled. Like, I remember a 20-year-old from Watford who sort of came, and he was like the only Englishman on the team, couldn't speak the language, and he was a great player, but he absolutely went to pieces. And I remember our manager was basically he was like, "I'm your football dad, I'm not your dad. You need to sort of sort it out." And I had to go sort him out myself, and I went to where he was living and how he was living, and it was all wrong and stuff. And I feel that people like Bruno, people like Johnny Evans, like I think that they should be checking in on Rashford and stuff. Like, and maybe they are now. We don't know what's happening in the club, but I am really concerned about Marcus Rashford. But we're neglecting the comments. Andrew is saying humility is essential in life, and Bilal is reminding us all that Marcus Rashford is not a state. So thanks for that. Fortunately, Bex didn't have social media. Jesus, can you imagine Beckham? The fame that Beckham had without social media is beyond anything I've ever seen. Like, I think only Princess Diana comes close. And then we've got Big G, or oi oi baddies. Hello, Big G. I hope you're doing all right, mate. God, Bart's putting in a good show tonight. I quite like that. Euros are coming. Rashford needs to be focused on this tournament. If he gets a few goals, maybe he can use that as a platform for when the new season starts. I'm sorry, Simon, I don't care. I want Rashford to perform for Manchester United. I don't care about England. Like, have you recovered, Beat? I hope you haven't done too many shows in 24 hours, pal. No, just my webcam, Big G. Like, just out there dancing, cage dancing and stuff. Andrew is saying, has it affected him, though? Something we can't really answer, but I think so. And this is a good point. Is Rashford is in the top 10 highest scorers in United's history. I feel he should take the summer off, work on becoming a complete winger, working on his mental health and finishing. From my experience, Bart, a player would never do that with an international tournament coming up. Like, Rashford played himself injured in the Euros in England because it was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I think you need someone around him to grab him and get him to focus on what's good for him. We deserve better. Feeding frenzy. Good night. I think we've been all right, actually. We deserve better. I wouldn't say that this was a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty constructive so far. I don't think we've.
Yeah, well, but that's fair enough. Here's an important question: do you not like Shogun? I'm about to start watching it. I think it's all right, Andrew, but I think it's highly overrated, and I didn't like the payoff. And I'm a bit disappointed by it, but definitely worth watching. How much do you think it's down to tactics and what he's getting told to do by ETH? It's an interesting question, Stefan, because Rashford is playing quite similarly to how he played with Ollie, where the onus isn't on him to sort of do any kind of defensive work or tracking back and stay high up the pitch and offer that threat. Is this two different managers looking at Rashford saying this is the best use of him, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I think they've come to that conclusion, watching him and saying, yeah, this is what the strengths of this player are. It's not tracking back. It's not doing a lot of defensive work. He does get back, like, sometimes, but not regularly enough. But I think if you got a player with that speed and that strength and the ability sometimes to finish the way that he can do, I think you got to use it in that way. You know, you want him to be that kind of guy, to be your out ball. We might not have like a striker that holds the ball up, but we've got a Rashford, for instance, can run in behind as well. But yeah, I'm not surprised that they both came to the same conclusion. I think most managers would put him in that same bracket.
All right. Well, we've got Dale popping in. Hello, Dale. Hope you're all right. I'm just gutted that my little boy looks up to Rashford, but this recently is starting to put cracks in his idol. Yeah, I wonder if, like, the sort of hometown hero done good weighs heavy on Rashford's shoulders. I wonder if we asked him now if he would have done the same thing that he did during COVID with his political work, and so on. Like, I'd love a sit down, Marcus Rashford. I find it very interesting that he's so introverted and so talented, and obviously has huge determination. But where's that all gone? I'm not sure. And we'll finish with DK Wilson saying, does anyone know how much Rashford's family relies on his money? No, DK Wilson. Sure. I don't. All right. Should we move on?
Yeah.
All right. This is what Ten Hag had to say on Rashford. I've got a lot of sympathy for Rashi. Last year he had a brilliant season. I think the best in his career, 30 goals. This season, he didn't give the performances, and people have been very critical. We have to back him, and everyone should back him to get him to the levels of last year. I think he needs the support. We all know what he's capable of. We all have to support and push him. He can do better this year. We saw last year when he was really brilliant. Look, anyway, we're entering Old Trafford. I heard the reception. Wednesday was the loudest I've ever heard it. Also away, they're always supported back in the team. There is a very good connection between the team and the fans. Right. So first of all, Stefan, last quote: good connection between the team and the fans. We've heard from I think Rushmanu, Andy Tate, Stewart, all match going fans have all told us that the connection between the fans and the team is the worst that they can remember.
Yeah, I mean, from talking to some match going fans, I would agree with that. There, like that does seem to be a similar consensus. Like, but you know, in the point of view, like they're never going to walk out onto Old Trafford pitch and get a lot of boos. They're never going to get like pelters just for walking out and um kicking off the match. Ten Hag is not going to have some guy in the middle of the Stretford end screaming, "Where's the rest defense?" at him. Like, as much as we might do it online, it's not going to happen in the stadium. They will cheer for goals. They will jump up and down for goals. You know, I've been to a couple of matches this season. It was at Chelsea at home. Ten Hag was under a lot of pressure then.
McTominay.
McTominay double.
Yeah,
the fans were. You know, the ground was really good atmosphere. Fans were really bouncing, myself included. You know, it's all part of the emotions of actually going and, you know, physically being there. So yeah, like he might think that Sheffield United was a good atmosphere, but people do feel strain from the team. You know, they see this team now. A lot of people are thinking that we're falling into the same cycle of, you know, the players stop playing for the manager, they don't care, they down tools, and you know that seems to be half the
I don't
narrative
think
going
that's
around
true.
online. I don't think so either. I disagree with that because I think we've gone long and deep in a lot of matches, fought back from positions where a team that didn't care or would have down tooled wouldn't have got back into. We wouldn't be in the FA Cup final. You know, we wouldn't have got past Coventry. We wouldn't have got past Liverpool in the quarterfinal if the players just flat were out of down tools. And then, you know, you're starting to see that narrative kind of twist a little bit towards individual players. And I guess maybe that's where some of the Rashford talk's coming from as well. Because like I said, even though he wasn't in the squad for Sheffield United, people were still talking about him outside the match, going like, "Oh, we played so much better without Rashford. We scored 4 goals tonight against a team that's got 16 points this season. That's one of the worst teams in Premier League history. It's up there with Derby County and Swinton Town. So you know, that's the level that we're playing at as well."
I mean, the thing that annoys me, I'll put these quotes back up in case there's anything else you want to address. But the thing that annoys me is saying that Wednesday was louder than I ever heard. Like, there have been very few like nights and afternoons at Old Trafford that have come close to the madness of the 90s, the 80s, and the 2000s, in my view. But one that did, I think, was Liverpool in the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago. Like, what are you talking about, Eric? Like, I mean, do you not have direct access to your own memories? That was a legendary FA Cup game. Like, people talk about that. Thank God we didn't lose to Coventry, but people will talk about that as being absolutely incredible. And for me, like with the match going fans and stuff, like I will watch United maybe 4 or 5 times a year now. But I did go quite a lot in the sort of like late 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that. I'm really upset about COVID because the thing that I thought was going to happen about COVID was we were going to see a great reset for football. I will always have a lot of I will always respect Carragher and Neville and Chelsea fans for what they did during the Super League, especially Chelsea fans who I think were the ones that kind of stopped the Super League by storming that bus and not letting the players go until Peter Cech came out. And Neville and Carragher were just there saying this is ridiculous. But also our players came back after COVID and performed incredibly well. Like, you think about that goal against Brighton. Do you remember the Bruno Fernandes volley? One of the best counter-attacking goals I've ever seen. Like, the players all came back and they all understood, I think, that football genuinely is nothing without the fans. Like, you've got to go out there, you've got to wear the badge, you've got to perform for people, and you have to show standards. And Manchester United, right, is built on a covenant that after Munich, we looked after the players as fans. We looked after the club, we looked after the players, and they would like kind of reward us in like we became family. That's why Manchester United's a very, very special club. And I feel maybe we need to do this for Rashford now, in the same way that we needed to do it for Phil Jones. Not as football players, but as humans. And I hate the fact that this team is hated by the fans at the moment, like from what I hear that's going on. But that, and Ten Hag, Ragnick, I feel that they've contributed to it with certainly Ragnick saying we needed open heart surgery. Like, what are you doing, man? Coming out and talking about our boys like that. Ridiculous. You can respond to that in a second. I just want to do the comments. Sorry, Stefan.
Yep. No, that's good.
Right, Big G has come back and saying Rashford needs an above average number 9 and 10 to play well. I don't know if he needs an above average 9 or 10, but he definitely needs a type of player next to him. Like Martial, I think, is really, really good for Rashford. Like, sort of gets the ball, it sticks, he passes it, stuff like that. So I think you're onto something there. The worst team in Premier League history in terms of goals conceded, Sheffield United. And DK Wilson. I've seen this type from athletes in the US, where the family is in his dealings with his money. It rarely goes well. That's completely true. And Andrew's agreeing with it. Darius, oh, fuck off, Andrew. The FA Cup match was a classic, almost on par with. Oh no, I get no, Simon. I was so young then. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, and I really wanted a hairy chest and a hairy back after Giggsy did that. That was one of the best things that I've ever seen. So, Stefan, I'll leave the last word to you on Ten Hag's quotes on Rashford and anything that you might have thought of and you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, one thing that came into my head when we were talking about we don't want to hate the club. I feel like I've said this a few times. There's a lot of anger about the Super League and a lot of anger around the way we've been run for a very, very long time. And I think one thing that's really important, and I don't think everybody necessarily does this, is that you have to separate Manchester United the club from Manchester United the business. And I think you can hate the business. I think you can hate the institution of being a publicly owned football club on the New York Stock Exchange in £700 million debt, with the stadium falling down, with owners who tried to take away the very culture and part of the very fabric of the football club. You can definitely hate that there, but we don't want to feel that way towards our players. We watch this team 3 times a week, and for a lot of people, it's a very important escape from a lot of things. It's links to your family, it's links to the history of the club for the last 150 years or so. We don't want to be in that position, and I do agree that Ranić with the quotes, that wasn't beneficial towards that whatsoever. Talking open heart surgery, anybody could say that. Anybody could say we need a lot of players brought in. That team wasn't good enough. But we don't have to come out here and attack from within, because I feel like as bad as things have got outside of the club, we have also been tearing each other apart and the club apart from within for a long time as well. And there is such a division, from people online. You scroll through Twitter or you go down YouTube, whatever, for 5 minutes, and you'll find one fan channel saying Rashford will never kick a ball again. Garnacho needs a statue built outside of Old Trafford, or whatever. You'll have some people on. Rashford's the entire problem. Look, we should play Anthony every week or whatever. It's just frustrating because there is a lack of unity, and I don't know if we'll ever actually. I don't know if you'll ever get a fully united fan base. I don't know if that's going to happen again. I don't know if it can happen again.
Do you know what's really interesting, Stefan, is that there was a guy called Lynch in America in about the 1850s, and it's where the term lynching came from. And his big thing was how to racially segregate people. So he racist, not up with the blacks and stuff like that. And what he said is is that what you need to do is you need to get generations to fight each other, right? That's how you stop people getting up and going and fighting as a unit. And I've always thought that that was a really interesting kind of view. But since social media, I've realized that you don't need that direction. That because people, because we amplify the most ridiculous opinions and the most ridiculous voices, like if you think about fan cams and stuff like that, the ones you remember are people going absolutely mental about, you know, a 1-1 draw or something fairly a thing. And I worry that social media has broken the covenant that used to exist between fans and the players at Manchester United, and I don't know if it can be repaired without trophies. And for me, I don't think I don't think trophies is what a football club should be about. I think it should be supporting, serving, and inspiring a community, and that's why, you know, Newport Pagnell is as important as Manchester United is to the people that support them.
No, exactly. I agree.
And I'm just going to do some comments before we get on to that little thing I told you about. But I worry that you're being actually like a genuine person tonight, saying the United agenda and the philosophy are an escape for you. Well, it's one of the only places you're welcome, Bart. I find it very funny that Bart is banned from everywhere, and I want him to be a mod on our channel. I agree, Darius. I've heard you shout some shit in my time. Yeah. Sober perspective, Stefan. Thank you for that. And Andrew wants Ineos to turn it down. He likes the gym, and so Dave. And I think Andrew is big into cycling, or at least like he seems to know a lot about Brailsford. And he hates the business, hates directors, hates most of the senior staff, definitely hates the coaches, absolutely hates most of the players, and 100% hates he hates everything, but he's not sure why he's still obsessed with United. It's because all these people, the directors, the owners, all they really are is custodians for Man United, and that's how they should be seen. But our last story, Stefan. Mount's back tomorrow. Sure, Lissandro Martinez and Martial back for the end of the season. Great stuff. Ten Hag has banned a couple of journalists not from attending a press conference, but from asking questions. They're from the Suns. That's Neil Custis. Manchester Evening News. That'll be Luckhurst and the Mirror. I'm not sure who that is. Is it Kieran McKenna or no? Well, whatever. He's banned them from asking questions. I think, right, that this is such a mad point, but one of the great things about the United Kingdom is that once a week you can stand up and you can question the Prime Minister, and that doesn't happen in a lot of countries. Like you can ask your MP to say, "Why are you such a dickhead?" or something, and he can just go and ask him that. What do you think? Like this, obviously, Stefan, is because these three journalists, after 90 minutes against Coventry City, all called for Ten Hag to be sacked. Just give me your views on this. Is this strong leadership? What is this?
You know, we've kind of seen it before with the Sun. We've seen it before with Manchester Evening News. Samuel Luckhurst had a Twitter, little bit of a tweeted. A little bit of a Twitter meltdown over it, was that at the time. But the one I want to draw everyone's attention to, the one I think is really interesting there, is the Mirror. Now, a friend of mine pointed it out. The entire time Ten Hag has been here, there's been a guy writing for the Mirror called Simon Mullock, who's been very close to everything Eric Ten Hag and has been getting briefs from the Ten Hag side. And all of a sudden, he's banned from asking questions. So what does that there mean in terms of Eric Ten Hag's status within the press and within the media? Because Mullock was a guy, according to older fans who I've spoken to, got a lot of things when Fergie was the manager, especially when Steve McLaren was number 2. Then kind of tapered off, and then McLaren came back.
Do you think that's where it's coming from? It's Steve McLaren more than Ten Hag.
It could be, but I think it's very interesting that someone very close to Ten Hag's side, who's been putting out, saying the Glazers have done X, Y, and Z, preventing Ten Hag from doing what he wants to do.
So it was always positive.
Richard Arnold, it's bad direction. He just needs a better support system around him, or he needs some players back from injury. All of a sudden, the guy kind of putting some positive spin into the press, banned from asking questions. That's an interesting one, and one to watch out for.
That is a world-class point, Stefan, because Stefan hadn't told me this before, but you've got a guy who was kind of like voz de governmento, like he was the voice, he was like a mouthpiece, sorry, is probably the expression in English. And he was getting fed information that was beneficial to him, but at the same time there was a quid pro quo of him like repeating Ten Hag's side of things in order to keep people on side and stuff like that. And now he's been cut off. So is that about the sort of, because McLaren is probably the most likely person to be assistant manager if we do sack Ten Hag. Is that a straining of their relationship, or, as I suspect, is this siege mentality? Ten Hag knows that he's cooked, and he's just pulling everyone in.
I mean, it could be, but we also have had some pretty interesting stories come out in the last couple of weeks. Benny McCarthy, Mitchell van der Gaag, and Steve McLaren are apparently not guaranteed roles in the future anyway. I think they were on like a 2-year deal or something beyond this summer. There was something about that came out. I would need to go back to the original story, but there was question marks about their future, even if Ten Hag stayed as manager.
Really?
Is there like internal conflicts or divisions?
What are your instincts telling you? Like, speculate.
If I want to speculate, I guess what I would say is I feel like Ten Hag might be isolating himself from his own allies within the club.
All right, why? Why would he be doing that?
Because I feel like he's on the backtrack. He's backtracking so much. I don't know if it's a case that he's doubling down on his ideas, whereas he's getting instructions or advice from those around him to try just be more pragmatic, maybe play more like what we did last season. I don't know.
Is it like Thorin Oakenshield in The Hobbit, where he's gone gold mad?
He's just gone gold.
He can't trust everyone. He's got dragon sickness. All right, I'm just going to do some comments, and then I'm going to get on to our last thing. The Sun banned. What a shame, says Bilal. Andrew says, yes, that's the beginning of the end. I tend to disbelieve anything in the Sun. Does the Sun actually put any news in their paper? Look, right, I'm not going to defend the Sun, but I am going to defend the British press, because I don't like how in recent years there has been a trend to belittle people that have invested time, money, and effort in learning a profession. And I will always trust a journalist over a fan channel, for example, because they are professionals, in the same way that I'm not going to come to Stefan and say, do you know what? I need some heart surgery. You and Ragnick, like, here's a Swiss Army knife, here's Delo, sort me out. And all the way from Snake Island, it's Dora. Last night, Stefan, after our show with Dora, I swear to God, we had 45 minutes of chicken stories. Like, it was unreal.
I wish I was there. I wish I was there now. I really do.
Yeah, come and join it. And like, look, Andrew, who never has a kind word for anyone, says, Stefan, you are smarter than you look. He just thought you were a handsome bimbo.
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just... there we go. There's Bard.
Yeah. I read some of The Sun for the first time. I can't believe it's anything more than a joke gossip brag. We just spent 20 minutes dragging Marcus. I don't think we did. I think we were quite nice. I'm good, guys.
No, we were nice.
Okay. I think refreshing the coaching staff is a must if Ten Hag stays. And that is a very, very good point, Agile Beast, because one thing that is consistently sort of said about Ten Hag is Overmars, Van der Sar, he needed them like to buy players and stuff. And I think Bart sometimes brings this up. I don't think that Ten Hag got all the guys that he wanted in his coaching staff. And Ragnick definitely had huge problems with Brexit, like getting in the people that he wanted. Like Sasha Lenz, he was. I'm more qualified than Sasha Lenz as a psychiatrist, and he had to be signed as a coach because he got a degree in psychology from a dustbin in Dresden. Right now, the last thing that I wanted to bring up is Frank Lampard's last press conference, because I've seen a lot of people who seem to be really pleased that Ten Hag is taking this hardline view and kind of humiliating journalists and all this sort of stuff. In Frank Lampard's last press conference for Chelsea, he came out shouting at the press. He said, use confirmation bias, negative reactions, you know nothing about football. And it was reported that this was one of the biggest reasons for him getting the plug pulled on him, because he was temperamentally unsuited to management. And if he has no grand tactical plan and cannot organise a defence, what is there? And that, Stefan, sounds a lot like Erik Ten Hag to me. So this is just a nice little surprise I put at the end. But how do you feel about Ten Hag doing this in a press conference?
Do you know, whenever you think about it, you know, you think of like the top managers that they almost play games with the press, and they're very well liked within the press. You know, they'll laugh and they'll have a giggle and they'll have a joke or whatever. Ten Hag's never really had that kind of relationship, and it's sort of like whenever you're friendly with the press, you don't necessarily get the same level of scrutiny. I feel like Pochettino's always been pretty friendly with the press in the United Kingdom, and as such, he's managed to avoid some of the criticism that he probably should have got at times this season. But it's almost like, you know, seats mentalities and all that there, and that all seems really good on paper. And you know, coming out swinging for the people having to go at you, yeah, Joe, it feels like, you know, you're showing some backbone and you're showing some bite, and I feel like it's a lot easier to have that there whenever you're winning trophies. Whenever Fergie did it, nobody questioned it because it was Fergie. If Fergie wanted to throw a reporter out for writing untrue stories or whatever, he would do that there. But he came from a position where he's going to tell Fergie what
power, isn't it?
Yeah. Ten Hag feels like he doesn't have the foundations beneath him to make these kind of swings and these kind of attacks. And you know, he might see it as over criticism, as abuse, or people targeting him or questioning him beyond what they should be. But he would have a much, much stronger case if he hadn't lost 17 matches this season. If we had more than if our goal difference wasn't 1, and if we had more than 53 points after 33 matches, you know, he doesn't really have a leg to stand on to come swinging out and making more enemies in the press, because I feel like it's just gonna grow. And you know, the feeling of this guy's not cut out for the job. And like even there, whenever I was finishing up my own show, with reports coming out from like the Evening Standard in London and stuff saying that Ten Hag's about to get sacked. They probably don't know if he's going to get sacked, but they're probably just coming out with it because if they jump first and get it right, it'll look really good for them. But the pylon's just going to get bigger. It's not going to address the problem.
Fabrizio did that, didn't he? Like he recorded a private video of Ollie being sacked and accidentally published it when like Ollie hadn't been sacked.
Yeah, like, it wasn't done yet. He had it like in his drafts. He had it like recorded his live reaction. He's like, the second this goes, I'm dropping this. I'm gonna be first to it. And I guarantee there's probably fan channels out there with their videos recorded already for this as well. So we better get it. We better get on it.
I mean, like for me, like I just sort of think that like I always think that Fergie did actually lose it. Like his most famous one was Veron, where he told the journalists that none of you know anything about football and shouted at them and stuff. But I mean, Veron was a flop. He shouldn't have been, but he was. a massive flop. And I think that Ten Hag, I think you've got to handle these things a lot more calmer. I mean, when I was at school, right, I had a headmaster that I really didn't like. And he hated me. And he was really unfair to me. So I took an advert out in Auto Trader and I put his car in it, and at a really low price. And I got about 6 or 7 people to come all on one day to buy his car, and laughed at him as they all went mental. And but when in the meeting where I was basically going to get expelled, they asked me why I did it, and I said because it was funny. And that was literally all I said about it. And I think that Ten Hag needs to be calm. He shouldn't, in my case, could have said, "Oh, I've done all this stuff to me," but I just said, "No, it's because I found it funny," and I was right. It was very funny. And even Benitez. Do you remember when he had his 99 problems, but VAR ain't one, or whatever it was? Was it Benitez that had that got that list of 99 things against Ferguson? Or was that the letter from Magnus?
I think it was. It's just all about press reactions. One I'll always remember was, I think it was West Ham came to United and Big Sam was the manager, and he made a comment that Van Gaal's team played long balls, and Van Gaal came out with a 20-page dossier of every pass played in the match, measuring it, and went through it at a press conference one by one. And there's just ways to react and ways not to react. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
I've put your channel, the link to it in the description. We're at the United Agenda. We're big fans of Stefan because, as I say, he brushes his teeth before he comes on stream.
Exactly.
He's always prepared. He's dressed. We don't get these things on a Monday sometimes. And we'll just do some comments before we finish. Right. Agile B saying patterns of play, collective team press, cutback, positional play to break down low blocks, and much more to the list. Ineos and Barada should be scouting the top coaches across Europe for the first team. I'm in love with you, Agile Beast. There's nothing really more that I can say to that. People could say, "Oh, Potter, Southgate, etc." If they can coach one of those things to a reasonable standard, we would be in Champions League contention for next year, in my opinion. I think people are arguing with Andrew. Such a rebel bath time. I know, mate. Rajat has popped in. Hello, Rajat. We're just at the end of the show, but lovely to see you. I think United will be paying his 3rd season salary while he's not working at United. It's going to be interesting to see who replaces Ten Hag. Stefan also has a Norwich scarf in his background, indicating his pro-Glazer stance. That's a good one, Bart.
Yeah, that is.
Stefan, you bring a nice, sensible tone to the channel. Fair play to you.
That's 2 compliments from Andrew.
Yeah, well, Andrew it's just Andrew, isn't it? Who want ugly people like the Glazers to run our club? They are shit. Get them to leave. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking for.
That's the analysis we want. That's forget financials. They're just bastards.
I think that's. Oh, brilliant! All right. Well, unless you've got something to say, Stefan, I think I'm going to end it here.
No, I think we've pretty much covered our agenda, so to speak.
Yeah,
so I think we're good.
I also want all of you to go and subscribe to Stefan. You stream at sort of 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it goes 7 o'clock most nights, so you'll be able to watch us both. No excuse not to, so has to be done.
Oh yeah, sorry, Bart. Yeah, no, we don't have a schedule on the United Agenda. We don't have a watch along scheduled, nor will we be doing a match reaction tomorrow due to work commitments and ill health and things. But Stefan, will you be watching the game tomorrow?
I actually will not either because I got some commitments that I can't get out of, unfortunately. So I guess we're just going to have to watch United stand or something.
No, watch our friends at the Stretford Paddock. Go and watch I don't watch myself, but Jay Motti, Tate. Yeah, oh my god! If you boys haven't experienced She-Wolf, you need to go and watch. Just go and watch G-Wolf. Shout out to G-Wolf. We used to have him on the eye test. I love G-Wolf so much. But anyway, right, all of you go and subscribe to Stefan. I want you all to have a brilliant weekend. And thank you so much for spending your Friday night with us. We've all had a blast, and it's all down to you guys. And I'm looking for the outro. Good night, everyone.